guys, hey, I thought I would do a fun kind of advice-ish video. I don't know how to like describe this, but so this is kind of my ideas. This is super weird how this video came to be, but you know when you're like talking to someone, whether it's on an app because you're first meeting them, or you're on a first date and you don't know what to talk about. I think that's something so many people like are nervous about. Oh, what am I gonna say? What if there's an awkward silence? What am I supposed to ask him? How can I ask him questions without it seeming like I'm like being too invasive and stuff like that? Well, I have some ideas. These are kind of first date talking points. I guess that's how I would describe it. Whether it's a first date or you're texting or getting to know each other like on an app or on online dating or something, these are just like good talking points that you can bring up. Some of them are kind of deeper. It depends on how your relationship is going or how you're getting to know each other. If you ask a lot of deep questions or if you just kind of want to stick to the surface but still get to know them. It depends kind of like what you want to know, which questions you take from this list or not. But I think these are just like really great ways to get to know people. So take from this list what you may. So if you're interested in hearing what I think is a good idea to talk about on a first date, then please keep on watching. Okay, the first one I think is a really fun way to kind of talk about your history or your childhood, and that's asking them if they had braces. I did, so I just feel like that's like a fun thing to talk about. Like, you know, maybe if you both had braces, it's something you can bond over, and I think it's a great way to kind of get into more of your history, your childhood, things like that. And next is if this is a deal breaker, like this is just something you're gonna want to bring up. Like if this is something that you know, if you found out like a month into dating someone, you wouldn't be able to put up with it. These are things I think you should talk about on a first date, although it does depend on if you're looking for a serious relationship, and that's why it's a deal breaker. I'm very pro like honesty and bringing up the hard topics early off. Like, why are we putting it off? Like, honestly, I'm like 100 years old. Like, why are we wasting time? But I think anything that's a deal breaker for you, I think you should bring up pretty early. So for me, that would be politics, that kind of thing, where you stand on certain topics. Like, that might be a huge issue, like, depending on what you're looking for. Another one I think that is a really cool topic, I guess it depends how into pop culture they are, but your biggest celebrity crush or your first celebrity crush. So that usually is a pretty fun conversation. So whoever they find like their biggest celebrity crush now versus also their first one like as a child or a teenager, like what poster they hung on their wall when they were in high school. Okay, next is kind of family. Ask them if their siblings, their parents, pets. I think that's something that you can really see how close someone is with their family, siblings, like things like that. See how they talk about them. I mean, I've asked some people about siblings and their parents and they get off that topic so quick, but if someone talks a lot about their parents and how much they look up to their parents or how much your parents have done for them, those are things that you can really see somewhat like what they care about in their life. And it's also just like basics that you should know about someone, I guess, that you're dating, but I think those are really important things that are easy to talk about on a first date. Next is if they like amusement parks. It's not something you have to know right away, but I think it's like a fun thing to talk about if someone prefers water parks or, you know, has been on like the fastest roller coaster or loves going to Six Flags or anything like that, like what their opinions are on that. Next is like obviously favorite movie is something you can talk about, but I think favorite 80s or 90s like cult movie is for anyone my age who's watching this. Then that gives you a lot to talk about the movie, about the actors, and that can carry into further conversation if you're kind of like don't know what to talk about. Next would be kind of, I guess, future date ideas. If you think it's going well, you can ask what your favorite kind of sushi is, favorite kind of pizza topping, favorite sandwich, where you could go eat in the future, favorite restaurants, kind of things like that, just to kind of open the door to a second date if you're interested in that. But if you're not, then you don't really have to bring that up. Another thing, kind of like the braces thing, to kind of get to know their history and stuff, like how they were growing up, if they played any sports, if they're in any clubs, chess club or debate team, or played football in high school. I just think it's interesting to kind of find out about that person when they were younger. I think that those are things I've dated people for long periods of time before I found out, and I would have liked to know it sooner. Another good question is obviously, you know, when you first start dating someone, you find out what they do for a living. That's like a pretty basic question. But rather than asking them, you know, I think a lot of people ask like weird interview questions, like where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think a good date question would be, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job? You know, you could get really weird answers, you can get really realistic answers, and then it kind of can lead into what you want to do in the future if you're still going toward that goal, if that's still something you want to do or be interested in. I think that's a good question that can kind of carry a future, like a full conversation. Another question I think is really fun is if they like pranks, and whether that's like playing pranks with their friends and family or just like watching prank videos or like being involved in a prank. I'm someone who loves watching prank videos, but I am so not into that. Like if someone played a prank on me, as long as it's not like a long drawn out annoying thing, I can be pretty free spirited about it and find it funny, but I would never put the effort in to do like a big full on prank. But I think that's like an interesting thing to talk about, if they can take pranks well, because some people don't like that. I don't know, like some people just like think that pranks are stupid, like practical jokes and things, but You can see kind of if someone takes themselves too seriously or if they're more like on the fun side of things. And then one that I think is cute is your first kiss story. I think that's a nice thing to share. Obviously it depends on what your story is, because I'm sure if you ask them, they're gonna want to ask you, and then if your story is like awful or like embarrassing, you don't want to share it. And I think that story can be like funny and cute, and it's like a nice thing to share and find out about them. And then last one, I guess, I mean there's so many more things I could add to this list, but your first concert, I think that's a nice story to tell. It kind of shows your taste in music. It shows how old you were, how like desperate you were to go to a concert, and it's not just like, oh, who'd you go see in your first concert, and then they tell you. Like, that's a nice story. Who you went with, where'd you go, did you travel far, did you wait in line for tickets, things like that. I just think that's a really cool story. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want another one of these in the future, please let me know. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos from me, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.